The black Mercedes rolled to a stop in front of the sprawling estate in Lagos, and Chukwuemeka Okonkwo stepped out into the humid afternoon air. After 15 years of building his empire across 3 continents, the billionaire had finally returned home to Nigeria. His heart pounded with anticipation as he approached the marble steps of his mansion, eager to surprise his daughter Amara, whom he had left in the care of his trusted sister when she was just 7 years old. But nothing could have prepared him for what he saw through the tall windows of his own home. There on her hands and knees, scrubbing the pristine, white floor with a worn rag, was a young woman in a faded housemaid's uniform. Her hair was wrapped in a simple cloth, her hands raw and reddened from work. Chukwuemeka's blood ran cold as recognition hit him like a thunderbolt. Those eyes, that face, the small birthmark on her left cheek. It was Amara, his daughter, his only child. His princess was working as a maid in his own house. He stood frozen, his designer shoes rooted to the driveway, watching as his sister Ngozi emerged from the kitchen, barking orders at the girl. "Faster, you useless thing! The floors must shine before evening, or you'll go without supper again." Amara's shoulders trembled, but she kept scrubbing, her movements mechanical, defeated. She didn't even look up. She didn't know her father was home. She didn't know salvation had arrived. Chukwuemeka's hands clenched into fists. His entire body shook with a rage so profound it threatened to consume him. 15 years. 15 years he had sent money every month. Ensured his daughter wanted for nothing. Trusted his own blood to raise his child with love and dignity. And this was what his sister had done? He pulled out his phone with trembling fingers and made a call. "Get me everything," he said quietly, his voice deadly calm. "Bank records, school records, everything about my sister's activities for the past 15 years. I want it in 1 hour." As he ended the call, Ngozi finally spotted him through the window. Her face went pale as fresh cotton, and the crystal glass she was holding slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Amara looked up at the sound, and for the first time in 15 years, father and daughter locked eyes. The recognition in Amara's face was immediate and heartbreaking. Her lips formed a single word, barely a whisper. "Papa?" But before Chukwuemeka could move, before he could run to his daughter and pull her into his arms, Ngozi did something that made his blood turn to ice. She grabbed Amara by the arm, yanked her to her feet, and slapped her hard across the face. "Back to work," she screamed, panic evident in her voice. "And not another word from you." What Chukwuemeka did next would shake the very foundation of his family and reveal secrets that had been buried for over a decade. Secrets that would explain why his own sister had turned his beloved daughter into a servant, and why the truth was far more sinister than he could have ever imagined. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think Chukwuemeka should do first? Comment below. Chukwuemeka's vision blurred red. Every muscle in his body screamed at him to burst through that door and confront Ngozi immediately, to wrap his arms around Amara and carry her away from this nightmare. But something held him back. A businessman's instinct honed over decades of navigating treachery and deception. If he acted rashly now, he might never uncover the full truth of what had happened to his daughter. He forced himself to take 3 deep breaths, then straightened his jacket and walked calmly to the front door. His key still fit the lock. Inside, the house smelled of expensive furniture polish and fresh flowers, a stark contrast to the horror he had just witnessed. His footsteps echoed on the marble floor as he made his way toward the living room where he had seen Ngozi. She appeared in the hallway, her face composed now, wearing an elaborate smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Brother, Chukwuemeka, what a wonderful surprise. We didn't expect you until next month." She rushed forward to embrace him, but he stepped back, leaving her arms hanging awkwardly in the air. "Where is Amara?" His voice was quiet, controlled, dangerous. Ngozi's eye twitched. "Amara? Oh, she's out with friends. You know how young girls are, always shopping, always." "I saw her." The 2 words dropped like stones into still water. "I saw her through the window, Ngozi, on her knees, scrubbing my floors, dressed like a servant in my own home." The color drained from Ngozi's face again, but she recovered quickly. letting out a nervous laugh. Oh, that, brother, you misunderstand. Amara, she wanted to learn responsibility. She begged me to let her help around the house. You know how generous she is, always wanting to help the staff. Don't. Chukwuemeka's voice cracked like a whip. Don't insult my intelligence. I saw you strike her. I heard what you said to her. The pretense fell away from Ngozi's face like a discarded mask. Her expression hardened into something cold and calculating. You've been gone 15 years, brother. 15 years. Did you really think you could just waltz back in here and bring her to me, now? She's not your daughter anymore, Chukwuemeka. She doesn't even remember you. I'm the one who raised her. I'm the one who fed her, clothed her, taught her everything she knows. With my money, his voice rose for the first time. Every month I sent enough money to send her to the finest schools, to give her everything she could ever want. Where did that money go, Ngozi? Where did it all go? Before she could answer, a soft voice came from the doorway. Papa? Amara stood there, still in her maid's uniform, her cheek red from where Ngozi had struck her. She was 22 now, no longer the 7-year-old girl he had left behind, but her eyes were the same, wide, uncertain, brimming with tears and something else, hope. Chukwuemeka's careful control shattered. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled his daughter into his arms. She was so thin, so fragile, nothing like the healthy, vibrant child she should have been. She collapsed against him, her whole body shaking with silent sobs. It's all right, he whispered into her hair. Papa's home now. Papa's home, and everything is going to be all right. Over Amara's shoulder, he watched Ngozi's face twist with something ugly, rage, fear, and desperation all mixed together. She pulled out her phone and began typing furiously, her fingers flying over the screen. What are you doing? Chukwuemeka demanded. Ngozi looked up, and the smile she gave him was cold enough to freeze blood. Making a call you're going to regret I made, brother. You see, you're not the only one with secrets, and you're not the only one with power in this city anymore. She pressed send, and somewhere in the distance a phone began to ring. What do you think Ngozi is hiding? Have you ever witnessed family betrayal like this? Drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales. Share this with someone who needs to hear this story. The phone call lasted exactly 47 seconds. Chukwuemeka counted every one of them while holding Amara close, feeling her heartbeat against his chest like a frightened bird. Ngozi spoke in hushed, urgent tones, her eyes never leaving his face, and when she hung up, her smile had transformed into something triumphant and venomous. You should have called first, brother, she said softly. You should have let me know you were coming. Amara, go upstairs and pack your things, Chukwuemeka said, his jaw tight. You're leaving with me. Now. But Amara didn't move. Instead, she pressed closer to him, her voice barely audible. Papa, I don't have things to pack. Auntie Ngozi sold everything you sent me. My clothes, my books, my laptop, everything. I sleep in the servants' quarters behind the kitchen. I have 2 uniforms and 1 blanket. The words hit Chukwuemeka like physical blows. His vision swam, and for a moment, he thought he might actually be sick. You sleep? Where? She's lucky I gave her a roof over her head at all, Ngozi snapped, her facade finally crumbling completely. Do you know how expensive it is to maintain this house? To maintain my lifestyle? Your precious monthly payments barely covered the basics. I sent you $50,000 every month, Chukwuemeka roared. For 15 years. That's $9 million, Ngozi. $9 million to care for 1 child. And I used every penny keeping up appearances, Ngozi shouted back. Keeping your name respected in this community. Making sure people knew that Chukwuemeka Okonkwo's family still lived in luxury. Do you think that comes cheap? The parties, the donations to the church, the designer clothes, the expensive car. Someone had to represent the Okonkwo name while you were off playing businessman in America. At the expense of my daughter? You turned her into a slave so you could throw parties? Ngozi's laugh was bitter and sharp. A slave? I gave her purpose. I gave her discipline. She was becoming spoiled, arrogant, always asking about her papa who abandoned her. I taught her humility. I taught her that nothing in this world is free. Amara's grip on her father tightened. When she spoke, her voice was stronger than before, threaded with years of suppressed pain. She took me out of school when I was 12, Papa. She told everyone I had gone to boarding school in England, but really I was here, cooking, cleaning, serving her friends at parties. When people asked about me, she showed them old pictures and made up stories about my achievements abroad. Chukwuemeka felt something break inside his chest. His baby girl, robbed of her education, her childhood, her dignity. Why? He whispered, looking at his sister. We grew up together, Ngozi. We survived poverty together. How could you do this to an innocent child? To your own niece? Because you left me, Ngozi screamed, and suddenly tears were streaming down her face. You left me here with nothing while you went off to make your fortune. You promised to send for me, to bring me to America, to make me your business partner. But you forgot all about me the moment you got rich. All I got were your monthly checks and your daughter to raise while you lived your perfect life overseas. So this was revenge? Against a child? Before Ngozi could answer, the sound of car doors slamming echoed from outside. Heavy footsteps approached the front door, and Chukwuemeka's stomach dropped as he saw who entered. 3 police officers in full uniform, led by a tall man with a commissioner's insignia on his shoulder, walked into the house as if they owned it. The commissioner's eyes swept over the scene and landed on Chukwuemeka with cold recognition. Mr. Okonkwo, the commissioner said, his voice formal and detached. I'm Commissioner Adeyemi. I'm afraid I need you to come with us to the station. There are some serious allegations that need to be addressed. Allegations? What allegations? Ngozi stepped forward, dabbing at her tears with a silk handkerchief. I'm so sorry, Commissioner. My brother, he's been away so long, I think the pressure has gotten to him. He burst in here making terrible accusations, frightening my niece, threatening me. I was scared for my safety. That's not true, Amara cried out, but the commissioner held up a hand to silence her. We also have reports of financial irregularities involving your offshore accounts, Mr. Okonkwo, the commissioner continued. Tax evasion, money laundering, very serious charges. You'll need to come in for questioning. Chukwuemeka's blood ran cold as understanding dawned. The phone call. Ngozi hadn't just called the police, she had called in favors, activated a network, set a trap, and he had walked right into it. If this story is keeping you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. What would you do if you were in Chukwuemeka's position? Let us know in the comments below and share this video with anyone who loves powerful family drama. Chukwuemeka's mind raced through possibilities like a computer processing data. He hadn't survived 15 years in international business without learning to read a setup when he saw one. The commissioner's posture was too relaxed, too familiar with Ngozi. The other officers wouldn't meet his eyes. This wasn't a legitimate arrest. It was theater, a performance designed to remove him from his own home and give Ngozi time to cover her tracks. I'm not going anywhere, Chukwuemeka said calmly, pulling Amara behind him. Commissioner Adeyemi, is it? I assume you have a warrant for my arrest? The commissioner's jaw tightened. We can obtain one within the hour if necessary. Then I suggest you do that. In the meantime, I'll be calling my attorney. Chukwuemeka pulled out his phone, but one of the officers stepped forward and reached for it. Papa, don't! Amara suddenly spoke up, her voice cutting through the tension. Commissioner Adeyemi, sir. I know your daughter. Kioma. We used to play together before Auntie took me out of school. The commissioner froze, his eyes finally focusing on Amara for the first time. His professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing confusion and then recognition. Amara, his voice softened. Little Amara Okonkwo? But I thought you were studying in England. Ngozi told me you were at Oxford, that you... He turned to look at Ngozi, whose face had gone pale again. Why is Chukwuemeka's daughter dressed like a housemaid in her own home? It's a misunderstanding, Commissioner, Ngozi said quickly. She likes to help around the house. I explained this to my brother, but I've been a prisoner here for 10 years, Amara interrupted, her voice growing stronger with each word. Auntie Ngozi took me out of school when I was 12. She's been stealing Papa's money and using me as her personal servant. She beats me, starves me, and tells everyone I'm abroad studying. Ask anyone who works here. Ask the gardener, the gate man, the other maids. They've all seen what she does to me. The commissioner's face had transformed from professional indifference to barely contained shock. He looked at Ngozi with new eyes, seeing past the elegant clothes and composed demeanor to something darker underneath. "This is ridiculous," Ngozi protested. "Commissioner, we had an agreement. You promised me that if I called, you would handle this quietly. My brother is wanted for tax evasion. You said so yourself." "An agreement?" Chukwuemeka seized on the words. "Commissioner, how much did my sister pay you to make those charges appear? Because I can assure you, my tax records are impeccable. I have accountants in 3 countries who make certain of that." The commissioner's hand moved to his radio, but he didn't speak into it. His eyes darted between Ngozi, Chukwuemeka, and Amara, calculating, weighing his options. Chukwuemeka recognized that look. It was the expression of a man realizing he'd made a terrible mistake. "Ngozi showed me bank statements," the commissioner said slowly. "Transfers to offshore accounts, suspicious transactions. She said you were using your business as a front for illegal activities, that you were planning to return to Nigeria, and she was afraid of what you might do." "Forgeries," Chukwuemeka said flatly, "or transactions from accounts she opened in my name." "Commissioner, I think you need to ask yourself why my sister was so desperate to have me arrested the moment I arrived home. What exactly was she trying to hide?" Before anyone could respond, there was a commotion at the door. A young woman in her early 30s rushed in, breathing hard, clutching a tablet. "Mr. Okonkwo, I'm sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible." She stopped short, seeing the police officers. "Who are you?" Ngozi demanded. "Adenike Bakare." "Sir," the woman said, addressing Chukwuemeka, "you called me an hour ago requesting financial records. I'm your attorney's assistant in Lagos." She held up the tablet. "I have everything you asked for." Chukwuemeka took the tablet, his fingers swiping rapidly through pages of documents. Bank statements, school records, property deeds, photographs. Each piece of evidence painted a damning picture. His monthly payments deposited like clockwork into an account in Amara's name, an account Ngozi controlled. Withdrawal records showing massive spending on luxury items, gambling debts, loans to friends that were never repaid. Photos from Amara's school showing her attendance had stopped abruptly 10 years ago, despite Ngozi receiving tuition payments for years afterward. "Commissioner Adeyemi," Chukwuemeka said quietly, turning the tablet to face him, "I think you need to see this, all of it. And then I think you need to decide whose side of the law you want to be on when this story hits the media tomorrow morning." The commissioner took the tablet, his face growing darker with each page he scrolled through. When he looked up, his expression was carved from stone. He turned to his officers and said something that made Ngozi's knees buckle. "Officers, I think we've been investigating the wrong Okonkwo." Ngozi lunged for the door, but she didn't make it 3 steps before the officers caught her. As they pulled her arms behind her back to handcuff her, she screamed at Chukwuemeka with 15 years of accumulated venom. "You think this is over? You think you've won? You don't know everything, brother. You don't know what I've really done. When you find out the truth about that night, the night your wife died, you'll wish you'd never come back to Nigeria." The room fell into stunned silence. Chukwuemeka felt Amara's hand slip from his. He turned to look at his daughter and saw something in her eyes that terrified him more than anything else that had happened that day. She knew something. Something about her mother's death. Something that changed everything. What secret is Ngozi hiding about Amara's mother's death? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us what you think really happened. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story is about to get even more intense. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Chukwuemeka's wife, Obioma, had died 17 years ago in what was ruled a tragic car accident. She had been driving home from a charity event when her vehicle veered off a bridge into the river below. They never recovered her body fully. The current had been too strong, the night too dark. He had been in Dubai on business, receiving the news via a phone call that shattered his world into a million pieces. "What did you say?" His voice was barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of an avalanche. Ngozi laughed, a wild, desperate sound. Oh, now I have your attention, don't I? All these years you never questioned it. Never wondered why your perfect wife was driving alone at night on a road she never used. Never asked why I was the one who identified what little they found of her. Auntie, please stop, Amara whimpered, tears streaming down her face. Please. But Ngozi was beyond stopping now, beyond caring. The handcuffs bit into her wrists as she strained against the officers holding her. You want to know what really happened to Obioma? You want to know why I took everything from Amara? It's because your wife took everything from me first. What are you talking about? Chukwuemeka's hands were shaking now. The man I loved, the man I was supposed to marry, Obioma stole him from me. David Okolia. Remember him, brother? My fiancé? We were engaged, planning our wedding, and then your precious Obioma smiled at him once, just once, at a family gathering, and he was obsessed. He broke off our engagement 3 weeks later. 3 weeks! And you knew. You all knew. But nobody cared about my broken heart because Obioma was so beautiful, so perfect, so beloved. Commissioner Adeyemi tried to intervene. Mrs. Ngozi, I must advise you. I don't care anymore, she shrieked. Let him know. Let everyone know. David died 2 years after leaving me, killed in a robbery, and I had nothing. No husband, no future, just the scraps of my brother's charity. So when Obioma called me that night, drunk and crying, begging me to pick her up from some hotel where she'd been meeting someone who wasn't my brother, I saw my chance. The room spun. Chukwuemeka reached for a chair to steady himself. You're lying. Am I? Check the hotel records from that night. The Renaissance Hotel in Victoria Island. She was registered under a false name, Mrs. Chidi Ease. She called me at 11 p.m., hysterical, saying she'd made a terrible mistake, that she needed help, that she couldn't let you find out. So I went to get her. Papa, please, Amara sobbed. Don't listen to her. Mama loved you. She told me all the time how much she loved you. Oh, sweet child, Ngozi's voice dripped with poisonous honey. You were only 5 years old. What did you know? I drove your mother that night. I picked her up from that hotel and she cried the whole way home. Cried about her mistakes, about her guilt, about how she didn't deserve my brother's love. And you know what I realized? She was right. She didn't deserve him. She didn't deserve this family. She didn't deserve to live in luxury while I suffered. What did you do? Chukwuemeka's voice was hollow. I offered her a drink. Water, I said. Just water to calm her nerves. But I'd crushed up sleeping pills in it, strong ones. She drank it gratefully, trusting me like a fool. When she started getting drowsy, I told her I was taking a shortcut home. That bridge, it was so dark that night, so isolated. And when she was barely conscious, I stopped the car, put it in neutral, and pushed. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the police officers stood frozen, horror etched on their faces. I watched the car roll toward the edge, Ngozi continued, her voice eerily calm now. Watched it tip over the barrier and fall, heard the splash. Then I walked 3 kilometers to the main road and called the police, reporting that I'd seen a car go into the river. By the time they arrived, I was the concerned sister-in-law, hysterical with grief. Chukwuemeka couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His wife hadn't died in an accident. She'd been murdered by his own sister. You? He couldn't form words. His hands reached for Ngozi's throat before the officers pulled him back. Papa? No! Amara threw herself between them. Papa, please. This is what she wants. For you to lose control. 17 years, Chukwuemeka choked out. I mourned her for 17 years. I left my daughter with you because I trusted you, because I thought you were family. I am family, Ngozi screamed. That's why it hurts so much. That's why I had to make you all pay. You chose her over me. You gave her everything while I got nothing. So I took her away, and then I took what should have been mine. Your money, your house, your daughter's future. I took it all, just like she took my David. Commissioner Adeyemi finally found his voice. Mrs. Ngozi Okonkwo, I am placing you under arrest for the murder of Obioma Okonkwo. Everything you have said here will be used as evidence against you. As the officers began to drag Ngozi toward the door, she locked eyes with Amara one last time. Ask your father about the letters, child. The ones your mother wrote before she died. I kept them all. They're hidden in the house. Love letters to another man. Ask him if his perfect Obioma was really as innocent as he thought. The door slammed shut behind them, and Chukwuemeka collapsed onto the sofa, his entire body shaking. Amara knelt beside him, wrapping her thin arms around his shoulders, and father and daughter wept together, for the wife and mother they'd lost, for the years stolen from them, for the web of lies and betrayal that had destroyed their family. But even through his tears, Chukwuemeka's mind was already working. Letters. Ngozi had mentioned letters. And despite everything, despite the confession, despite the horror, he needed to know the truth about his wife. All of it. This story keeps getting deeper. If you're as shocked as we are, hit that like button and subscribe for the next chapter. What do you think those letters contain? Share your theories in the comments, and don't forget to share this video with friends who love intense family dramas. For 3 days, Chukwuemeka didn't search for the letters. He couldn't bring himself to. Instead, he focused on Amara, taking her to the hospital for a full medical examination, buying her an entire new wardrobe, moving her into the master bedroom of the house while he took a guest room. He hired a therapist, a nutritionist, and enrolled her in a program to help her complete her education. He was trying to rebuild what Ngozi had destroyed, brick by careful brick. But the letters haunted him. They whispered to him in the quiet moments, when Amara was sleeping and the house was still. They called to him from whatever hidden corner Ngozi had tucked them into, promising answers he wasn't sure he wanted. On the 4th morning, while Amara was at her first therapy session, Chukwuemeka finally began to search. He started in Ngozi's bedroom, a gaudy shrine to excess with gold-trimmed furniture and walls covered in expensive art, all purchased with money meant for his daughter. He went through drawers, closets, checked behind paintings and under the mattress. Nothing. He moved to her private study, a room Amara had told him she was never allowed to enter. The desk was locked, but Chukwuemeka had stopped caring about niceties. He forced it open with a letter opener, splintering the expensive wood. Inside, he found folders of forged documents, fake school records for Amara, bank statements showing Ngozi's gambling debts. His sister had been drowning financially, using his money to plug holes in a sinking ship of her own making. But no letters. He was about to give up when he noticed something odd about one of the bookshelves. A leather-bound photo album stuck out slightly farther than the others. He pulled it, and the entire shelf swung forward on hidden hinges, revealing a small safe built into the wall. Chukwuemeka's heart hammered as he stared at the electronic keypad. What would Ngozi use as a code? He tried her birthday. Wrong. Her wedding anniversary to the husband she'd divorced years ago. Wrong. On impulse, he tried the date of Obioma's death. The safe clicked open. Inside was a manila envelope, yellowed with age, and a small jewelry box. Chukwuemeka pulled out the envelope first, his hands trembling. There were 7 letters inside, all written in Obioma's distinctive handwriting, elegant, flowing script that he still saw in his dreams sometimes. He sat down on Ngozi's desk chair and began to read. The first letter was dated 3 months before Obioma's death. "My dearest David," it began, and Chukwuemeka felt his world crack again. David. The same David who had left Ngozi. His wife had been writing to the man who had broken his sister's heart. But as he read further, confusion replaced his initial anger. The letter wasn't romantic. It was apologetic, almost clinical. Obioma was explaining why she couldn't continue meeting with David, why their relationship had to end. "What we shared was a mistake born from my loneliness and your persistence," she wrote. "My husband may be absent, but he is good and faithful. I cannot betray him anymore. Please don't contact me again." The second letter was harsher, dated 2 weeks later. David had apparently not accepted her rejection. "I have told you repeatedly that I don't love you," Obioma wrote. "What happened between us was a moment of weakness I deeply regret. I was vulnerable, missing my husband, and you took advantage of that. If you continue to harass me, I will tell Chukwuemeka everything and let him handle you." The third letter made Chukwuemeka's blood boil. David had been blackmailing Obioma, threatening to tell Chukwuemeka about their affair unless she continued seeing him. Obioma's response was fierce. "I have already decided to tell my husband everything myself. I would rather lose him by my own honesty than be controlled by your threats. You are not the man I thought you were, David. You are a predator, and I was your prey, but no more." The remaining letters chronicled Obioma's internal struggle, her guilt, her determination to confess to Chukwuemeka, her fear of losing her marriage. The final letter, dated the day before her death, was addressed to Chukwuemeka himself. "My beloved husband," it read, and Chukwuemeka's eyes blurred with tears. "By the time you read this, I will have told you everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I pray for it anyway. 3 months ago, I betrayed you with David Okolie. It happened once, in a moment, when I felt abandoned and alone while you were building our future abroad. He pursued me relentlessly, and I was weak, but I ended it immediately. I have been trying to end it completely, but David won't let go. He has been threatening me, following me, demanding that I leave you for him. Tonight, I met him at a hotel to tell him one final time that I would never see him again, and that if he didn't stop, I would go to the police. I am coming home now to tell you everything face to face. I cannot live with this guilt anymore. I know I may lose you, lose Amara, lose everything I hold dear. But living a lie is worse than facing the truth. I love you, Chukwuemeka. I have always loved you, and if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, I will spend the rest of my life proving that I am worthy of that forgiveness. Your faithful wife, from this day forward, Obioma." Chukwuemeka pressed the letter to his chest and wept. His wife had been coming home to confess. She had been trying to do the right thing, and Ngozi, knowing all of this, had killed her anyway. Not just killed her, silenced her before she could make things right. He reached for the jewelry box with shaking hands. Inside was a single item, a small digital recorder. There was a note attached in Ngozi's handwriting: "Insurance, in case anyone ever questions what happened." With dread pooling in his stomach, Chukwuemeka pressed play. His sister's voice filled the room, tinny and distant, recorded 17 years ago. "Here, Obioma, drink this. It'll calm your nerves." Then his wife's voice, thick with tears and exhaustion. "Thank you, Ngozi. I don't know what I'd do without you. I'm going to tell Chukwuemeka everything tomorrow. I can't keep lying." "Of course you are," Ngozi's voice purred. "Everything is going to be fine. Just rest now." Rest. There was silence for a few minutes, then the sound of a car engine. Obioma's voice again, drowsy now, confused. "Ngozi, this isn't the way home. Where are we going?" "Just a little detour, sister. Just a little detour. I feel strange. What did you put in the water?" "Justice, Obioma. I put justice in the water." The recording ended with the sound of a car door opening, Obioma's weak protests, and then silence. Chukwuemeka sat in that study for an hour, holding the evidence of his sister's evil, mourning the wife he'd lost twice, once to death, and once to his own doubts about her fidelity. Obioma had made a mistake, yes, but she had been trying to fix it. She had been coming home to him, and Ngozi had stolen that chance from both of them. When Amara returned from therapy and found him there, she took one look at his face and knew. Without a word, she sat beside him, and he told her everything. About her mother's affair, about her attempt to make things right, about the recording that proved Ngozi's premeditated murder. "Mama was trying to be brave," Amara whispered when he finished. "She made a mistake, but she was trying to fix it. That's what matters, Papa. She loved us enough to risk everything to tell the truth." Chukwuemeka pulled his daughter close, and for the first time in 17 years, he felt something inside him begin to heal. The truth was painful, but it was also liberating. His wife hadn't been the villain Ngozi had painted her as. She had been human, flawed, struggling, but ultimately choosing honesty over comfort. "What do we do now, Papa?" Amara asked. Chukwuemeka looked at the recorder in his hand, then at his daughter's face, so much like her mother's. "Now," he said quietly, "we make sure your mother's story is told correctly. We make sure everyone knows she was trying to do the right thing, and we make sure Ngozi pays for every single thing she's taken from us." But even as he said it, his phone buzzed with a message from Commissioner Adeyemi. "Mr. Okonkwo, we have a problem. Ngozi's lawyer has filed for bail, and there's a judge willing to grant it. She could be released as early as tomorrow. We need to talk immediately." Chukwuemeka stood in the courtroom 2 weeks later, the small digital recorder sitting on the prosecutor's table like a bomb waiting to detonate. The room was packed. News of the billionaire's return and his sister's arrest had spread through Lagos like wildfire, and everyone wanted to witness the conclusion of this tragic family saga. Ngozi sat at the defense table in an orange prison jumpsuit, her expensive jewelry and designer clothes replaced by the uniform of the accused. She looked older now, diminished somehow, but her eyes still burned with defiance when they met her brothers across the room. Amara sat beside Chukwuemeka, wearing a simple blue dress he'd bought her. She'd gained weight in the past 2 weeks, her cheeks filling out, color returning to her skin. The therapist said she was making remarkable progress, but Chukwuemeka could still see the shadows in her eyes. Healing would take time. The judge, a stern woman named Justice Adebayo, called the court to order. Ngozi's lawyer, an expensive attorney named Kunle Martins, immediately launched into his defense. He painted Ngozi as a desperate woman, abandoned by her family, driven to extreme measures by mental illness and grief. He argued that her confession had been made under duress, that she'd been confused and emotional. "My client is not a murderer," Martins proclaimed. "She's a woman who sacrificed 15 years of her life raising her niece while her brother lived in luxury abroad. Yes, she made mistakes in how she managed the money entrusted to her. Yes, she was too harsh with the girl. But murder? That confession was the product of a mental breakdown, nothing more." Then it was the prosecutor's turn. Attorney Funmi Olawale was a no-nonsense woman with a reputation for demolishing defense cases. She stood and held up the recorder. "Your Honor, the defense would have you believe that Mrs. Ngozi Okonkwo's confession was a fabrication born of mental distress. But we have evidence that proves otherwise. This recording was found in Mrs. Ngozi's personal safe, hidden behind a false wall in her private study. It contains audio from the night of Obioma Okonkwo's death, audio that Mrs. Ngozi herself recorded and kept as, in her own words, insurance." The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge banged her gavel for silence. "I object, Your Honor," Martins jumped up. "There's no way to authenticate that recording. It could have been fabricated, edited, created by anyone with basic audio software." "The recording has been examined by 3 independent forensic audio experts," Olawale interrupted smoothly. "All 3 confirmed it is authentic, unedited, and matches voice samples from both Mrs. Ngozi Okonkwo and the late Mrs. Obioma Okonkwo. We also have the letters found with the recording, letters that establish motive and premeditation." Justice Adebayo held out her hand for the evidence. The courtroom fell silent as she examined the letters, her face growing graver with each page. Finally, she looked up. "Play the recording." What followed were the longest 3 minutes of Chukwuemeka's life. His wife's voice filled the courtroom, tired and trusting, thanking Ngozi for helping her. Then confusion. Then fear. Several people in the gallery gasped. One woman began crying. Amara gripped her father's hand so tightly her knuckles turned white. When it ended, the silence was absolute. Justice Adebayo's voice was ice when she spoke. "Mr. Martins, would you like to revise your defense?" The lawyer looked at Ngozi, who had gone pale as death. She whispered something to him, and he shook his head helplessly. "No, Your Honor, we maintain our position." "Very well. Does the prosecution have anything else?" "Yes, Your Honor. We call Amara Okonkwo to the stand." Chukwuemeka squeezed his daughter's hand. They discussed this moment. Amara had insisted on testifying, against his wishes, against her therapist's recommendations. "People need to know what she did to me too, Papa," she'd said. "Not just to Mama." Amara walked to the witness stand with her head held high. For 30 minutes, she recounted her life after her father left Nigeria. The gradual isolation, the removal from school, the beatings, the starvation, the years of being told she was worthless, that her father had abandoned her, that she deserved her suffering. "Did Mrs. Ngozi ever speak to you about your mother?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes," Amara said, her voice steady. "She told me Mama was a bad woman, that she deserved to die, that I was bad too, because I looked like her. She said I had to work hard to earn my place in the world, to prove I wasn't like Mama." "Did she ever tell you how your mother died?" "She said it was an accident, but sometimes when she was angry or drunk, she would say other things. She would say Mama got what was coming to her, that God punished Mama for her sins. I didn't understand what she meant until Papa came home. Martins tried to cross-examine, to poke holes in Amara's testimony, but she didn't waver. Every answer was clear, factual, devastating. When Amara stepped down, Chukwuemeka himself took the stand. He presented the financial records, showing how Ngozi had systematically stolen millions meant for his daughter's care and education. He showed photographs of the servants' quarters where Amara had been forced to sleep, a tiny windowless room with a thin mat on concrete floor. He presented medical records showing evidence of malnutrition and old injuries consistent with physical abuse. Finally, he looked directly at his sister. I trusted you with the most precious thing in my life, he said quietly. My daughter, my only child. And you destroyed her childhood because you couldn't let go of a grudge from 20 years ago. You murdered my wife not because she wronged you, but because she made a mistake and was trying to fix it. You're not a victim, Ngozi. You're a monster. Ngozi's composure finally cracked. She stood up, screaming, She took everything from me. David was mine. This life was supposed to be mine. You all owed me. Her lawyer tried to pull her down, but she shook him off. Yes, I killed Obioma, and I'd do it again. She deserved it for stealing my future, and I took everything from that spoiled little girl because she didn't deserve any of it. None of you deserved anything. The judge banged her gavel repeatedly. Order, Mrs. Okonkwo, sit down immediately. But Ngozi wasn't finished. 17 years of secrets poured out of her in a torrent of rage and bitterness, confessing to everything in front of dozens of witnesses, cameras, and court reporters. By the time security finally restrained her, there was no defense left to mount. Justice Adebayo's verdict came swiftly. Mrs. Ngozi Okonkwo, I find you guilty of first-degree murder, child abuse, embezzlement, and fraud. You have shown no remorse, no recognition of the magnitude of your crimes. I hereby sentence you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The gavel fell, and it was over. Outside the courthouse, Chukwuemeka held Amara as reporters shouted questions and cameras flashed. He didn't answer them. He simply held his daughter, breathing in the Lagos air, feeling the sun on his face, and allowing himself to finally let go of 17 years of grief. What happens now, Papa? Amar asked, the same question she'd asked 2 weeks ago, but with a different tone this time. Hope instead of fear. Now, Chukwuemeka said, smiling down at her, we live, we heal. We honor your mother's memory by being the family she wanted us to be. I'm staying in Nigeria, Amara. I'm not leaving you again. We're going to build a new life together, the right way. And Auntie Ngozi? She chose her path. We choose ours. 3 months later, Chukwuemeka and Amara stood in front of a new building in Lagos, the Obioma Okonkwo Foundation for Abused Children. They'd used part of the recovered money to create a safe haven for children suffering abuse at the hands of family members, complete with housing, education programs, counseling services, and legal aid. Amara, now enrolled in university and thriving, had insisted on being involved in running the foundation. Mama's mistake doesn't define her, she told her father during the planning stages. Her attempt to make things right does, and we can help other kids before they suffer for years like I did. As they cut the ribbon and watched children stream into the new facility, Chukwuemeka felt his wife's presence like a warm breeze. She had made a mistake, yes, but she had also raised a daughter with courage and compassion. And that legacy, the good parts of Obioma, lived on in Amara. Ngozi had tried to destroy their family with secrets and lies, but in the end, the truth had set them free. Not the truth of Obioma's affair, which was painful but forgivable. Not even the truth of Ngozi's crimes, which was horrifying but conclusive. No, the truth that mattered most was simpler. That love, real love, survives mistakes. That family, true family, chooses forgiveness over revenge. And that even in the darkest moments, redemption is possible. That night, father and daughter sat together in their home, truly their home now, purged of Ngozi's influence and filled with light and laughter again. Amara was studying for her exams while Chukwuemeka reviewed plans for expanding the foundation to other cities. Papa, Amara said suddenly, looking up from her books. Yes, my dear. I forgive her. Auntie Nosy. I don't forget what she did, and she deserves her punishment. But I forgive her, because holding on to that anger would be like staying in that servant's quarters, even though the door is open now. Does that make sense? Chukwuemeka set down his papers and crossed the room to embrace his daughter. It makes perfect sense, and it means you're wiser than I am. I'm still working on forgiveness. That's okay, Papa. We heal at our own pace. That's what my therapist says. Your therapist is very wise. They sat together in comfortable silence, and Chukwuemeka marveled at the resilience of the young woman beside him. Ngozi had tried to break her, to turn her into something bitter and cruel. But Amara had emerged from her ordeal with empathy intact, with compassion strengthened, with a determination to help others avoid her fate. The billionaire had come home to find his daughter working as a maid. What he did next wasn't just rescue her, it was listen to her, believe her, and empower her to transform her pain into purpose. Together, they had taken the worst betrayal imaginable and turned it into a foundation that would help thousands of children. And that, Chukwuemeka thought, as he watched Amara return to her studies with a small smile on her face, was the real victory. Not the courtroom judgment, not the recovered money, but this, a daughter who survived and a father who stayed, a family rebuilt on truth instead of lies, a future bright with possibility instead of dark with secrets. Ngozi had taken so much from them, but she hadn't taken everything. And what remained, love, resilience, hope, was enough to build something beautiful. What an incredible journey this has been. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more powerful, emotional stories like this one. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear a message about resilience, family, and the power of truth. What did you think of Chukwuemeka and Amara's story? What would you have done in their situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And remember, if you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, please reach out for help. You are not alone and your story matters. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.